Phantom Blade Zero is one of those games that immediately leaves a strong impression, even before you fully understand how it works. From the first moments, it feels clear that this isn't trying to be just another action RPG. It's a single-player experience rooted in wuxia tradition, but presented through a modern cinematic lens that blends martial arts, dark fantasy, and a distinct kung fu punk aesthetic. There is no co-op here, no multiplayer distractions. This is a focused, narrative-driven journey that puts you alone in a dangerous world where every movement, every fight, and every decision carries weight. The setting does a lot of heavy lifting. The Phantom world feels ancient and broken, inspired by Ming Dynasty China, but twisted with steampunk machinery, cyberpunk influences, and unsettling horror elements. It's a world that feels lived in, yet decaying, like it's slowly collapsing under the weight of secrets and betrayal. As you move through environments, you can feel that sense of history everywhere, in the architecture, in the enemies you face, and in the way the world seems to exist outside of your character, rather than revolving around him. Visually, the game is stunning. The graphics lean heavily into next-gen presentation, but not in a sterile or hyper-realistic way. Instead, Phantom Blade Zero uses contrast, lighting, and animation to create mood. Shadows are deep and oppressive, sparks and particles fly during combat, and character animations are incredibly fluid. Every sword swing, dash, and parry feels handcrafted, almost choreographed like a martial arts film. It's the kind of game where you can pause during a fight and still feel the motion frozen in the frame. What really stands out is how cohesive everything feels. The visuals aren't just there to look good, they directly support the gameplay. Enemy animations are readable, attack telegraphs are clear without being obvious, and the camera stays tight enough to keep fights intense without becoming disorienting. You always feel close to the action, which makes every encounter personal and dangerous. The gameplay itself is where Phantom Blade Zero really starts to shine. Combat is fast, but not chaotic. It's built around precision, timing, and rhythm. You're not encouraged to button mash or overpower enemies through raw stats. Instead, the game constantly pushes you to learn patterns, manage resources, and react intelligently. Every enemy can be lethal if you're careless, and every mistake feels deserved. You play as Soul, an elite assassin whose fighting style revolves around blades, positioning, and momentum. You carry multiple weapons, each serving a different role in combat. Primary weapons are your blades, and each one comes with its own ultimate ability called a power surge. These aren't just flashy finishers, they're tools that can completely change the flow of a fight if used at the right moment. Secondary weapons, known as phantom edges, add another layer of depth. These range from heavier tools like hammers and axes to more unconventional weapons, giving you flexibility depending on the situation. One of the most interesting systems in combat is wuxia. This resource governs both offense and defense, forcing you to constantly balance aggression with restraint. Blocking, parrying, and dodging all interact with wuxia, and poor management can leave you vulnerable at the worst possible moment. Some enemy attacks are designed specifically to drain this resource, while others can't be blocked at all, pushing you to rely on correct timing and movement. There's a real sense of tension in every fight. Enemies aren't just damage sponges, they're dangerous, aggressive, and capable of punishing mistakes hard. Certain attacks trigger special reactions if handled correctly, like Ghost Step, which allows you to reposition behind an enemy after narrowly avoiding a lethal move. These moments feel incredibly satisfying, not because they're easy, but because they reward awareness and skill. As you spend more time with the game, it becomes clear that Phantom Blade Zero is less about power fantasy and more about mastery. You don't gradually become untouchable. Instead, you become smarter, faster, and more precise. Combat evolves as you do, and that progression feels earned rather than handed to you through numbers on a screen. Exploration also plays a significant role. The world is semi-open, made up of interconnected regions that don't always open up in a straightforward way. Some paths are blocked early on, but later become accessible through alternative routes, abilities, or narrative choices. This non-linear structure encourages curiosity and rewards players who take their time. You're not just moving from mission to mission, you're uncovering pieces of a larger world. Storytelling is another area where the game shows confidence. Phantom Blade Zero doesn't overwhelm you with exposition. Instead, it lets the narrative unfold naturally through environments, side quests, and character interactions. The main plot centers on Sol being framed for the murder of the Order's patriarch, forcing him into a desperate race against time after receiving a temporary cure that leaves him with only 66 days to live. That looming deadline gives the story urgency without forcing artificial time pressure on gameplay. Your choices matter. Side quests aren't just optional distractions, they actively influence the story and lead to different endings. With 8 distinct conclusions available, replayability is baked directly into the narrative structure. This gives weight to your decisions and makes the world feel reactive rather than static. Difficulty options further shape the experience. Adjusting difficulty doesn't just change enemy health or damage values, it affects AI behavior, mechanics, and the overall feel of combat. This allows players to tailor the experience to their preferred level of challenge without compromising the game's core identity. A New Game Plus mode adds even more longevity, encouraging experimentation and mastery on subsequent playthroughs. What makes Phantom Blade Zero particularly interesting is its cultural identity. It doesn't dilute its wuxia roots to appeal to a broader audience. Instead, it embraces them fully, presenting a world inspired by Jianghu, a realm outside the authority of empires and governments, where honor, loyalty, and personal codes matter more than law. Sol himself embodies this idea. He's quiet, reserved, and driven by a strong internal sense of justice. He's not a talkative hero, but his actions speak for him. That personality comes through in gameplay as much as in story. The way Sol moves, fights, and interacts with the world reinforces his role as a disciplined but deadly assassin. He feels human, flawed, and vulnerable, which makes his journey more compelling. You're not saving the world as an unstoppable force. You're surviving it as someone with limited time and impossible odds. The sound design deserves attention as well. Weapons have weight, impacts feel heavy, and environmental audio adds to the tension. Subtle background sounds, distant echoes, and shifting music cues help sell the atmosphere. During combat, audio feedback reinforces timing, making successful parries and counters feel even more rewarding. By the time you've spent several hours with Phantom Blade Zero, it becomes clear that this is a game built with intention. Nothing feels accidental. Every system supports the others, and every design choice seems aimed at delivering a cohesive experience. It's demanding, but fair. Stylish, but grounded. Complex, but readable. In a genre crowded with action RPGs, Phantom Blade Zero stands out by knowing exactly what it wants to be. It doesn't chase trends or try to appeal to everyone. Instead, it commits fully to its vision, offering a single-player experience focused on atmosphere, mastery, and storytelling. If you're the kind of player who enjoys learning a system, feeling yourself improve, and getting lost in a carefully crafted world, this is a game that's absolutely worth your time.
Say, are we doing this perfect transcension thing or not? With perfect transcension, maybe we can avenge Red. Don't you find the name disturbing? It's transcension.
This is it, son. I'm proud to be your father.